right, so thank you for joining this session. Yeah, I had some technical issues, therefore 5 minutes later, but no problem, I think. Yeah, thank you for joining this session to the topic Alfresco Workdesk, Technical Insights. So we want to have a bit deeper look of Alfresco Workdesk. So we always say that Workdesk is heavily configurable, and how much configurable it is, we want to have a look to this. So first of all, Alfresco Workdesk. So what is it? In general, we can say, of course, Alfresco Workdesk is a product, or is a product which focuses on the transactional use cases. So typical examples like loan origination, claims processing, deal management, all that stuff, which, like an insurance company, claims are raised hundreds a day or even thousands a day and have to be processed always in the same way. So recurring processes, that's what we talk about. Well, so, and what we focus on today is three things. So the outstanding benefits of Alfresco Workdesk are, of course, three things. The business roles at the first hand. So we provide a tailored business view to the user. We talk about flexible configuration, so we can configure the business applications, the business views, and all the required feature according the requirements for the business, for the end users. And the virtual folders are also dynamic folder structures, which allow to make us independent from any physical folder structures in the backend. Well, so let's have a deeper look to that. We talk about role management. So what does that mean? If I log in, let's imagine I'm a member of, not of Java, I'm a member of a human resources department. So I'm logged in into the Alfresco Workdesk, into the user interface, and I want to have a business application, a business view, exactly matching my daily business needs. So I want to have search templates to search for employee dossiers. I want to have the capability to watch different employee dossiers. I want to search for employee contracts and all that stuff. So in the business context of human resources. If I'm a member of, in the same company maybe, but if I'm a member of a claims department who has to process claims all the day, I'm not interested in searching for employees, so maybe I am, but I shouldn't do that. So I want to have a user interface to be able to search for claims, for customer or insurance customers, for contracts and all that stuff. So what we want to do is we want to focus on the daily business needs, and that's what Workdesk provides with its powerful role management. So I think there are good sentences here. Avoid the noise of other content and other features. So just provide what they need. So what you see is what you need. I think that is really a good sentence which matches. All right, so let's have a look to the virtual folders. What does it mean? So in general, we say we are not dependent on any physical folder structures. What we are essentially doing is we search for the content we want to have in our business view. So it can be located anywhere, but what we want to do is we, based on the metadata, based on index data, we search for the relevant content. Let's do an example. A document comes in. A document comes in, let's say a claim, and it is already indexed by an OCR engine or something like this with an ID, a customer ID or something like this. So it's stored anywhere in the repository. But due to the metadata, the ID, what we already have a corresponding entry or a content for this, so an insurance customer, for example, we are able to route that document automatically to that corresponding customer file, to this corresponding insurance file. So this allows us also, kind of document routing. And of course, we probably have not only one metadata for one document, so we have multiple, so we can also, based on this combinations on metadata, on information what we have available, we can show one document in multiple views, no problem. So we can show it according to priority, an assignee, a document type, document status, whatever you want. So everything is possible. So what does it mean? So we can configure and build unlimited business views as much as we need, as much as we want, as much it makes sense for our business case. So, and from the user perspective, let's take again the example of this document routing. I have a document which is routed automatically in its corresponding, let's say, customer file. So from a user perspective, it looks like it's automatically filed. Something magical is happening in the back end. It's just there. It's scanned and it's appearing in its corresponding case file or customer file. But from a technical perspective, we do nothing else than a search. So we search for the documents like a customer ID or a document type or a name or whatever else. We just search for the documents we want to have in our consolidated business view, independent from where it is located in the back end. So I think this should make it a bit more clear. So on the left side, we see a physical repository structure. Folders, just folders, physical folders. And content for one specific case file for one specific customer can be located anywhere. So like here in document library or a mail intake folder or directly in this Alfresco Business Solutions case file. So just take the fact content is located anywhere. On the right side, we have a business view, not this technical thing. We have a business view on the right side. So this represents a customer file. So when I talk about a customer file or in general a case file, what I'm talking about. So a case file can really be compared with a traditional paper file in your cabinet. So it just is a collection of documents which belongs together. Like for this customer has an ID and some additional information, and we have offerings for this customer, orders, contracts, deliveries, and so forth. So here, that's the business what we working daily with. So what you see is on the left side again, we have documents located anywhere, and just by this virtual folder structure, which looks really similar to a physical folder structure. So the end user doesn't care about, is it virtual, is it physical? He just wants to have the information in place here and at the right place. So just by properties like a customer ID or a document type, we can file it into the right folder structure to the right customer. So what we do is we click on that contracts folder and search for documents having the matching customer ID and the matching document type. And this makes us completely independent from any physical folder structures. We can build and set up our own business view. Well, the role management. No, sorry. The configuration. As already said, Workdesk is highly configurable. That's really easy. That's really powerful. So what we do is, as said, we can configure whole business applications. One for HR, one for insurance company, one for contract management, other one for, don't know. And all of those applications can be configured within one instance of Alfresco Workdesk. And what we do is we configure the business roles, we configure the business views, and all the features we require in that business application. So how does it work in general? So we will see this later on, also in a live demonstration, how configuration works. But here in general, I want to wrap up shortly what we do with Workdesk. So those both steps are independent from Alfresco Workdesk. So the first thing you every time have to do, so you define your business cases and your use cases. Typical. Then we define an appropriate data model within the Alfresco system. So we define the underlying data model, what we can use for configuring our business application. So like types for contracts or contract folders and so forth. Well, and then we go over to the Workdesk. The Workdesk configuration stuff is done here. So first thing is what you do is you configure your business views. So what we're talking about is we configure folder structures, dynamic folder structures, which shows customer files, case files in general, contract files, and so forth. We configure the appropriate search templates, which allows us to provide the criteria you want to find specific content, contracts, or customer files, claim files, and so forth. So, and then we configure all the remaining features. Features like areas, master areas, to show an employee dossier, to show a contract case file, to show a claim file, or things like that. Features like, okay, I want to allow this user to send a mail, send a document as mail to anybody, but just as a link, not as an attachment. So also those features can be configured. And after we configure that, we have to go over to the second step of Workdesk configuration, to the role manager. Of course, as I said, we can configure a view, a view or a case file for watching and showing employee dossier files. And we can also configure a view for claim files. So it does not make sense to provide the HR or the human resources department this claim stuff. So we assign this, the configured artifacts to its corresponding roles. So HR dossiers to the HR department, as an example. Right, so I already took this word in my mouth, though I already said this word plugin. So plugin is quite general. What does it mean in context of Workdesk? So almost everything in Alfresco Workdesk is represented by a plugin. So a plugin is based on a Java class. A lot of plugins are coming out of the box. A lot of features are coming with it out of the box. And if you think there is still one feature which is not available, but I require it, then you are, of course, also able to write your own plugin and define your own feature behavior for this. Well, but as said, we have around a lot of plugins which are coming out of the box, which just have to be configured. So the configuration is done through XML, at least in the background, because we also have a graphical user interface-based configurator, which allows you to configure those XML, those plugins. And we have different types of that: master plugins, record plugins, document plugins. I think it makes sense to have a view on, to have a look on that in user interface. So what we see here is the user interface, the user interface of Alfresco Workdesk, which means we have main areas here in the top, which shows maybe a word before. So what we see here is a configured application for a company called Green Energy, and Green Energy is operating windmills and wind parks. So here in that case, we have a windmill file, and we have also issue reports, because a windmill can also have sometimes an issue. Therefore, we create an issue for a specific windmill, and that's roughly the application here, what we configured. So, well, I already talked about we have main areas here to show wind parks. We have main area to show the windmill case files or issue report files. And those things are called master plugins. So later on, we will also configure such a master plugin. Additionally, we also want, of course, to be able to create a new issue report or a new windmill, or simply upload a new document and so forth. So creating objects in general, I would say, this can be done through record function plugins. It does not have anything to do with records management. It's just for creating an object in record, record function plugins. And then you see in the context menu, but also here, we have some other features like edit properties or copy or add to favorites. So all these document-related things are called document function plugins. I think not a surprise. So we have three types: master plugin, record function plugin, and document function plugin. All right. Well, I think it's a half hour ago, I exactly got that question. So what security model are you using? Do you have your own security model? Where is the content located? So I think the question in general is, where are we in this Alfresco infrastructure? So, of course, in the bottom, we have an Alfresco system, an Alfresco repository, which defines all that stuff for security, the user in groups, so you can add users and groups, which defines the security and access control, the content model, and the content. And on top, we can access through Alfresco Share, for example. And on top, you can also access it from Alfresco Workdesk or Office Workdesk, another product. So we are using exactly the same artifacts, users and groups security model as Alfresco Share does. So essentially you can even create, for example, a document in Alfresco Share. You will see it in Alfresco Workdesk as well, no problem. We are accessing the same box. So therefore, we do not bypass any securities. We do not bypass any users. We do not provide an additional or a duplicate, I would say, a duplicate security layer, which would bring confusions, because if you exit from this side, you can access. If you access from that side, you cannot access. This doesn't make sense. We are using the same box, which consists of all the required things for an ECM system. Well, this session is called Technical Insight, and therefore I think it makes sense to have an insight, and would go over to a live demonstration of configuration. But I want to put this in a story which I already a bit have mentioned. So I said we have here a company called Green Energy. Green Energy is operating windmills on wind parks. So a wind park consists of one or at least one or multiple windmills, and and for each windmill, and this is done by a role called windmill management. Secondly, we have a role called fault registration. So sometimes as that there could be an issue, and for this an issue report will be created, but no issue report without corresponding windmill, of course. So no issue if there is no one windmill. Yeah, and this is done by the role fault registration. So, and to complete that scenario, we won't probably have time for that to cover all that stuff, but in general, this scenario also shows that there is a field worker team which goes on site to the windmill and repairs it or maintains it or something like this. And for this, we can synchronize this with the cloud, with the hybrid cloud, but only that issue reports which has to be accessed from the field worker. All right, so let's go over to the inside and hope my machine is working now, not as half hour before. All right. So what you see is very tiny. Now it's a bit bigger. All right. So what you see is the login screen of Alfresco Workdesk. Not spectacular from now, but I'm logged in as a user called WMU, windmill user. And when I log in, you can already see that thing of role management. So you see that we have a dedicated user interface for managing those windmills. We have wind parks here in place. We have areas to show windmills, issue reports, and so forth. To watch that, to search for issue reports, to search for windmill documents, and so forth. Just to give you an impression what I mean with role management, and making a hard example, I'm log out and log in as human resources user. You see, well, the coloring is quite the same, but we have the dossiers area. We have an inbox area. I can search for employee dossiers. Has nothing to do with windmill management. I can execute a search and get a result list return for different employees. So in one instance, we have completely different, from a business view, completely different use cases and business applications. All right, but that's not the topic. We want to go to back to our windmill management and have a look to wind parks. Well, here I have a list of different wind parks which consists of windmills. Well, and here we have a Summit wind park. So let's have a look. So we can also build these references. So I have a wind park which consists of this windmills here. So I have a reference built in the data model, of course, which shows me the reference and or contained windmills. And when I select one of that, I think Boston windmill is quite a good windmill. We see now such a case file, what I already mentioned. So what does a case file do? So it consists of an info panel which provides me the most important information regarding that windmill. So that's based on the data model what I have configured. I can provide more information or less information here. And I have a folder structure here, a dynamic folder structure. It looks like any other folder structure as well, but doing the example, I click on plans, and what I expect, of course, is to get a list of plans of that windmill. And we can see that. I have the matching windmill ID. Of course, in a productive environment, I wouldn't show that here in the result list. But here we can see that the windmill ID is matching to that windmill ID. And also the document type plans is matching. So what we did by clicking on that folder, we executed a search and searched for that corresponding documents. I don't know where those documents are located. It doesn't care me. We just bring it together and provide a consolidated view for the end user. So, and the same with contracts. Here you see the contract types, certificates, and so forth. But as I said, we have also issue reports. And issue reports must relate to a windmill. Well, what I can do is I can search for issue reports like this, search, and here it is. Yeah, I also have information maybe for the windmill ID, but it makes sense, I think, to bring this together. So let's go back to the windmills. It makes sense to provide here another folder, a dynamic folder, which shows me the corresponding, the referenced issue reports for that. Well, and that's what we want to do. We want to configure now such a new folder which searches for the corresponding issue reports. So what I, of course, need for that is a key which allows me to build or recognize the reference between an issue report, or otherwise in the windmill, and the issue report. So what I did here, I defined, is it possible to read it? No. No, it's better hope. Well, so what I did is I have a data model. That's the typical Alfresco data model. And I have a windmill file. That's here, the windmill file. And I'm using, of course, an identifier, here in my case, the windmill ID. So this windmill identifies that windmill. Well, and then we have another one. We have the issue report file, which also, the issue report file here, which also consists of an ID, again, the windmill ID. So it also has a unique identifier, the issue report identifier, but we are using the windmill ID to build that reference between an windmill file and an issue report. So, and now we go over to my windmill template. So what I have here is the template which specifies the appearing folders. So you saw we had, recently we had plans, certificates, and so forth. So within the windmill file, we have these folders. And this template defines exactly that structure and the search. Well, so let's go ahead. Let's have a look to that, what we're defining here. So on a first view, it looks like complicated, but it's so easy. It's always the same stuff. So we start with defining the columns in the result list. So what columns do we want to have in our result list? Let's have a quick look to that to compare it. Here you see on the right, here you see we have name, windmill ID, document type, resubmission date, blah, blah, blah. So that's exactly that here is name, windmill ID, type, and resubmission date. So that's what we configure here. Then, and that's what I said, what we do is we search for our documents we want to have. And that's what we are doing here. We have a search clause, so we can also use operators like and, and ors, and operators like equal, not equal, lower than, greater than, all that common stuff. And we specify the properties we want to search for. So in that case, what we had here, we search for plans and certificates and so forth. So therefore, we search for two criteria. So the matching windmill ID and the matching document type. All of that are properties. So that's just the search criteria we define here in general. And then we start refining that. So we start defining the nodes. A node represents a dynamic or virtual folder in the user interface. So we have this node plans. We saw that already. And say, OK, if the ID matches, so that's the configured above, and the document type is plans, then please show me that document in that folder. It's just the definition. And again, we have the same with contracts. We have the same with certificates. So if the document type is certificates, please show that. Well, and what we want to do now is we configure now an additional folder which shows us, in that case, not documents, but issue reports. So you're completely flexible for what you want to search for, so objects in general. Here we define a new search with searches for corresponding issue reports. And how does it work? Well, again, we start with defining a path, so we can limit a search to specific locations. I prepared here a little bit, of course. So what I do here, I can here define the path where my issue reports are located. I go ahead. I define the select properties, which means I define the columns in my result list. Doesn't make sense to use here document-related data because issue reports has a different properties. So I also prepared this a bit. Is it an animal or what? All right. So we define properties like the issue report ID or the priority of this issue report or the status of that issue report and so forth. And I'm using the operator. So if the windmill ID of the windmill file matches with the windmill ID of the issue report, then please show that. So the windmill ID has to equal. And of course, we have to define now the windmill ID, this one. All right, so here we search for the windmill ID. So let's erase this one. And what we do is we search that, and let's have a look. So let's go here, log out, log in again, and let's have another look to windmills. Search for windmills. We have this Boston windmill. And here you see, ta-da, we have another folder called issue reports. Let's click on that. And you can see it shows now all the corresponding issue reports. Must be a bad windmill because we already had 5 issues with that. And well, so all the corresponding issue reports are shown, and we can click on that, like car crashed into windmill, stupid car driver, was a drunken car driver. So what we have here is another case file related to issues now. So it defines also virtual folder structure with issue reports, a field report. So what the field worker on site has documented what he did for clarifying this issue, this problem. So we again have another case file which relates to the windmill. So like this, we can also go back. Here we have the windmill ID and also the reference. The windmill ID allows me to go back from this issue report to the corresponding windmill. Well, and that's the thing. So you see that it's very easy to configure such virtual folders. And we want to continue that game. It's very important to be aware of in which status my windmills are, what issue reports are there, and so forth. So in that case, of course, we can search for the windmills, we can search for the issue reports, but it makes sense to have a consolidated view across all existing windmills and issue reports. So why not providing another master plugin here between the top, let's say between issue reports and search. So let's configure a master plugin which shows us, again, a dynamic folder structure and shows me the windmills according their status. Is it working? Is it in repair? Is it defect or something like this? And give the end user also a dynamic view which shows the issue reports according a priority, how many issue reports were created in the last month. I think that's essential for such a company. And what we want to do now is we want to configure such a new business view called, let's call it reporting. It's not a graphical reporting. have wrong expectations. It's a list view, a kind of list view which shows windmills and issue reports according their status. All right. So what I have here is the configurator. It's an Eclipse-based tool which extends the screen. I see. Well, and you see here the different categories I already mentioned. So we have document function plugins, which, let's close that, which defines features like edit properties, cut or copy, add to favorites. So all these minor features, this plugin type, can be configured. We also have, I already said this, record functions to, for example, create or add a new windmill document, or create a new windmill in general, or create a new dossier. New dossier in windmill? So again, what I said is, we can configure all the features, all the plugins within here, and afterwards, in the role manager, we assign the appropriate plugins and features to its corresponding roles. So like this, I'm not able, of course, to create a new dossier in my windmill management application. But here, all the features are listed and configured. And what we want to do is, we want to configure a new master plugin. So what I can do is, I can walk through the wizard to create and define all these things and criteria for the plugin. But what I also can do is, I can use an existing master plugin like the inbox. I know that this inbox master plugin has quite the similar settings and quite the similar settings as I need in my new master plugin view. So what I'm simply doing is I take this inbox and copy a new instance of that. So I just have created a new instance of the same type and give it a speakable name like reporting, and again, reporting. So then we can configure a lot of things here, like which document functions shall be enabled within this plugin. So like copy, I can enable this copy document plugin with this. There are a lot of features, but don't worry, you don't have to keep all of that in mind, because we have a very well-documented help view here. So you see even with screenshots that you know where and what you are configuring. A well-documented help is available. And here in that case, let's go back to this master plugin. We give it a spoken name and refer to a template which I have already prepared, but we will pull this now together. So I refer to an XML template which defines that folder structure. Well, I have saved this. Let's have a look. It's not a secret, of course. Let's have a look to this reporting template. And it starts again with the same thing. So we start with showing the windmills according to status. And again, we define some other things like in which repository we want to search and start, the columns. Again, we want to have the columns like the ID and the windmill status and the in production since and so forth. Again, the same thing. Well, we have again this criteria, search criteria. So we search for the windmill status in that case. Makes sense because we want to show that according to their status. And then we have different nodes. A node, a parent node, so you see also subfolders are possible. A parent node, which is called windmills by status, and then showing the windmills according to their status: active, failure, repairing, abandoned, and demounted. Well, and refine that criteria again with this values. All right, so let's start with that. We have that virtual folder structure, configure or defined, which shows us the windmills according to their status. And now what we do is we go back to our Alfresco Workdesk. So what we did is we configured now that feature. Okay, and this next thing what we have to do is, I think that's obvious, so One second. So first of course, we have to reload the modified settings. So that's what I did. And now we log in again as administrator. And what are we doing now? As I said, we have configured now the feature, the main area, the master plugin with its template. And now, of course, the human resources department don't want to have reporting for windmills. So we have to assign it to the appropriate role. We have to assign this windmill reporting thing to the windmill management team. 10 minutes, thank you. So what we do is we go over to the role management. We search for our respective role. Windmill management. And I will filter this a bit to make an overview, so just show the master plugins. And you see that we have now the master plugins available, like favorites or issue reports and windmills and wind parks, and those are assigned to our windmill management group. Or on the other hand, where is the dossier thing here? Employee dossiers, it's not assigned for this role. So what you see is what you need. That's the clue here. So we should see here our just created plugin here, reporting. And we will assign this now to our windmill management group and save the setting. Well, and I want to show another example, search templates. So you see we have a bunch of search templates available here, like find customer files, find dossiers, and so forth. Do we want to do that? No. And therefore, it's not assigned to this windmill management group. Do we want to search for issue reports? Do we want to search for issue reports and its documents? Do we want to search for windmills and wind parks? Yes, that's what we're doing daily. And therefore, we assign those search templates to that corresponding role. Very easy. OK, so we assigned this reporting thing to our windmill management group. So let's have a look. Let's check this. Ta-da. We have a new master plugin called reporting. And it starts with a windmills by status folder and shows us, hopefully, the windmills according their status. So 3 of our windmills are active. Only 1 is in failure mode. Therefore, it is called kill mill. Repairing are also 1. So you can see all the windmills according their status. And we want to, again, continue that game because we also want to see our issue reports. The most important thing, I would say, in that context. We want to see the issue reports also according a status, according a priority. So let's have a look to that. So here I extend now my template, and I define a new search. So now I do not want to search anymore for the windmills in my new folder. I want to search for my issue reports. And therefore, I start with a new search in this new node, in this new folder. So defining, again, the select properties. I define, again, also the property, the criteria I want to search for. So in our case, the issue report file status. We define, or we limit it to a specific document type, to a specific type, content type, to the issue report file, and we define the nodes. So here we have the nodes, using the status in new, in investigation, in repair, and so forth. So due to the time, I will do the next one as well in one step. I define another node, which should show me the issues not by status, but by the priority. Well, what should we do here? We just take the search. So we can copy the existing one and use that. So I pasted that search, that existing search, into that folder issue report by priority. So we search for priority. So therefore, let's also use that as the criteria to search for. So not anymore the status for this new node, for this new folder. We're using the priority. And yeah, and this is okay. We use also in the specific node this criteria. So here in that case, we only have one, but we can make combinations of a priority and a date or something like this. So the value in that case for priority is low, low. So, and because we want to see all of that, we have two more. So one is medium, and high. All right, so what we did now is we configured two new nodes, two new virtual folders. Let's go there, just log out and log in. And let's have a look to that. Issue reports by status. We see our new issue reports, we see our issue reports under investigation or in repair and so forth, or according to priority. So it's totally up to you how you want to configure that, according what criteria you want to show different object types. So you see here we have it according priorities, and you see that the documents, not the documents, the issue reports, which are represented by a case file, are highlighted even. So there is a rule in that, which is also coming out of the box. You can define rules which shall highlight the content or the objects in different colors. So in that case, we just configured a rule. If priority equals high, then please highlight it in red. Well, just by the way. Well, and then what we have is we have it according different status. And now I want, the last thing, configure one last additional folder, which shows us the issue reports, respectively, when were they created. Well, so let's go to our template, back. Let's use the same search. It's quite similar again. And use that here as well. So we comment in this thing. And what we do is we use the reporting date now as the criteria. The reporting date. Added property means, in that case, hidden. It's just predefined. But I want to have this edit table. I want to make my own changes within the user interface. Let's have a look how this looks like. Edit table. So I make this edit table. And of course, I want to see a between operator here. So this means I can define between when and then were the issue reports created. So between edit table, and we search for the reporting date. Save that, log out, and log in to reload the settings, reporting, issue report. And you see that now I can give the user even the possibility or capability to make some own criteria here. We can define here further things like, yeah, we have that, so just issue reports are shown here. But when were they reported? So let's have a look to that. Yeah, let's set another to today. Let's say, okay, we have between August 1st and 10th of November. Let's execute that search. And yeah, the list is restricted or kind of filtered. So we can even make the user able to filter a little bit. Well, I have 2 minutes remaining, so I think it's a good time to make a quick summary. Yeah, I hope that I was able to show you how easy that is to configure such virtual folder structures, not being dependent on any physical or historical grown infrastructures. Make your own business view, make it as you need it, as you want it, as you can work as best in the daily business. And I think that's the key. You saw, you just get provided what you need for your daily business. And yeah, and I think, thank you. Any questions from your side?
Hello, I was interested to find out how do you do the style sheet part, like the red and yellow thing. Is it a style sheet or is it as part of the XML?
So it's both. Essentially, it's a style sheet, what is triggered or used, but you configure that role. That role is configured through the user interface, through the configurator. So you define the criteria. If priority equals high, then please use this style sheet. Does it make sense? Not in that. It's done. I think that's quite quick. Priority rules like this. So here you see priority equals high, and then use this style sheet.
Just final question.
Yeah.
Does it have a document preview?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
Do you believe me? I think then we have time for another one.
Is this a separate WAR file? Can you put this application on a separate server and have your Alfresco server?
Simply,
Separate?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. If you want to see that, please come to the Alfresco booth.
I think we run out of time now. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much again. Thank you.